Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajacharya Ashtodhara Shatashi Srimad Bhagavatam Bhakti Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajacharya Ashtodhara Shatashi Srimad Bhagavatam Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopina Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. New Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, which is entitled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 3, Rishabhadeva's Appearance. What is it? Did I say Canto 4? Okay. Alright, let's rewind. Rewind. This morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, which is entitled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 3, Rishabhadeva's Appearance, text 4 and 5. Yes. Okay, so the word by word, everybody could repeat. Rit Vidya Uchahu. What is it? We're on 4 and 5. Why would you be on 3? No, yesterday wasn't on. Yeah, yesterday wasn't on 2 because Dravida Prabhu spoke on 2 on Wednesday. And then Bijay Prabhu spoke on 3. So today is 4 and 5. Because I remember Dravida Prabhu giving the class on these different principles here. There are 7 transcendental means to obtain the mercy of Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. 1, by sacrificing valuable things or edibles, by acting in terms of place, by acting in terms of time, by offering hymns, by going to the priest, by offering gifts to the priest, and by observing the regular principles. Because Dravida Prabhu spoke on this on Wednesday, and I remember Mukunda Charna Prabhu was bringing up some points, and we discussed after class.
Yes, Prabhu, it is 4 and 5 today.
Yeah. Tapas is saying 4 and 5. Was that what you're saying, Tapas?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
I was tracking.
You're tracking, okay. All right. Continuing the word by word. Arhasi. Please accept. Muhuhu. Again and again. Arhatama. O most exalted, worshipful person. Arhanam. Offering of worship. Asmakam. Of us. Anupatanam. Who are your servants? Namaha. Respectful obeisances. Namaha. Respectful obeisances. Iti. Thus. Etavat. So far. Sat. By exalted personalities. Upashikshitam. Instructed. Kaha. What? Arhati. Is able to make. Puman. Man. Prakriti. Of material nature. Guna. Of the modes. Vyatikara. In the transformations. Matihi. Whose mind is absorbed. Anishaha. Who is most incapable. Ishvarasya. Of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Parasya. Beyond. Prakriti Purushayoho. The jurisdiction of the 3 modes of material nature. Arvaktanabihi. Which do not reach up to, or which are of this material world. Nama Rupa Akritibihi. By names, forms, and qualities. Rupa. Of your nature or position. Nirupanam. Ascertainment. Perception. Sakala. All. Jananikaya. Of mankind. Vijina. Sinful actions. Nirasana. Which wipe out. Shivatama. Most auspicious. Pravara. Excellent. Gana. Of the transcendental qualities. Ekadesha. 1 part. Katanat. By speaking. Rite. Accept. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The priest began to offer prayers to the Lord, saying, O most worshipful one, we are simply your servants. Although you are full in yourself, please, out of your causeless mercy, accept a little service from us, your eternal servants. We are not actually aware of your transcendental form, but we can simply offer you our respectful obeisances again and again. As instructed by the Vedic literatures and authorized acharyas, Spirit. Materialistic living entities are very much attracted to the modes of material nature, and therefore they are never perfect. But you are above the jurisdiction of all material conceptions. Your name, form, and qualities are all transcendental and beyond the conception of experimental knowledge. Indeed, who can conceive of you? In the material world, we can perceive only material names and qualities. We have no other power than to offer respectful obeisances and prayers unto you, the transcendental person. The chanting of your auspicious transcendental qualities will wipe out the sins of all mankind. That is the most auspicious activity for us. And we can thus partially understand your supernatural position. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to do with material perception. Even then, personalist Shankaracharya says, Narayana Paro Vyaktat. Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is beyond the material conception. We cannot concoct the form and attributes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We must simply accept the description given in Vedic literatures about the Lord's form and activities. As stated in Brahma Samhita 529, Chintamani prakara sadmasu kalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabir abhipalayantam lakshmi sahasra shatasam brahma sevyamanam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desires, in abodes built with spiritual gems, and surrounded by millions of purple trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. We can have some conception of the absolute truth, his form and his attributes, simply by reading the descriptions given in Vedic literatures and authoritative statements given by exalted personalities like Brahma, Narada, Shukadeva Goswami, and others. Srila Rupa Goswami says, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Nambhaved Gramindiyai. We cannot conceive the name, form, and qualities of Sri Krishna through our material senses. Because of this, other names for the Lord are called Adokshaja and the Prakrita, which indicate that he is beyond any material senses. Out of his causeless mercy upon his devotees, the Lord appeared before Maharaj Nabi. Similarly, when we are engaged in the Lord's devotional service, the Lord reveals himself to us. Sevan mukhehi jiva dao swayameva svaratada. This is the only way to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavanyascha smitattadaha. One can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service. There is no other way. We have to hear from the authorities and from the Shastras and consider the Supreme Lord in terms of their statements. We cannot imagine or concoct forms and attributes of the Lord. Om Jnanativedandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmalitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Karitivachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitadinam Vancha Kalpadribishta Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, we'll read the translation again. The priest began to offer prayers to the Lord, saying, O most worshipful one, we are simply your servants. Although you are full in yourself, please, out of your causeless mercy, accept a little service from us, your eternal servants. We are not actually aware of your transcendental form, but we can simply offer our respectful obeisances again and again, as instructed by the Vedic literatures and authorized acharyas. Materialistic living entities are very much attracted to the modes of material nature, and therefore they are never perfect. But you are above the jurisdiction of all material conceptions. Your name, form, and qualities are all transcendental and beyond the conception of experimental knowledge. Indeed, who can conceive of you? In the material world, we can perceive only material names and qualities. We have no other power than to offer respectful obeisances and prayers unto you, the transcendental person. The chanting of our auspicious transcendental qualities, of your auspicious transcendental qualities, will wipe out the sins of all mankind. That is the most auspicious activity for us. And we can thus partially understand your supernatural position. So here we see that Lord Vishnu, he is appearing to Maharaj Navi, who will be the father, right, of Rishabhadev. And says in the beginning of this chapter, chapter 3, the summary, that Maharaj Nabi, he wanted to, who's the oldest son of Agnidra, he wanted to have sons. Maharaj Nabi, therefore he underwent severe austerities and penances, and he performed many sacrifices along with his wife and worshipped Vishnu. And being very kind, Krishna appeared, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was pleased with the austerities of Maharaj Nabi. He personally appeared before the king in his four-handed future, and the priests who were performing the sacrifices after Vishnu appeared began to offer their prayers unto him. They prayed for a son like the Lord, and Lord Vishnu agreed to take birth in the womb of Meru Devi, the wife of King Nabi, and incarnate as King Rishabhadev. So Rishabhadev is going to appear soon, and which will launch us into a whole different chapters of the Bhagavatam. Like you have, this is the appearance of Rishabhadev, and then afterwards will be the characteristics of Rishabhadev, right? And then there'll be see this? And then it will be the Rishabhadev's teachings to his sons, which as Dravida Prabhu is mentioning, the first verse of that chapter and the following verses, Srila Prabhupada, but specifically Srila Prabhupada spoke on the first verse many times. Whereas you see Srila Prabhupada, he would speak on certain verses, you could say more than once, or he would definitely quote verses more than once, but it is quite unique that Srila Prabhupada would, like class after class, like he would be in India, he'd go from one place and then the next place, and he'd be the same verse. That's text 1. Which is Nayam Deho Deha Bhajam Niloke Kashtan Kaman Arhate Vidbujam Ye Tapo Divyam Puta Kayena Sattvam Shuddhe Yasmad Brahmasaukam Twanantam Rishabhadeva Vacha. That's what he said. Lord Rishabhadev told his sons, my dear boys, all of the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, of all the living entities, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for the dogs and hogs that eat stool. Pretty gross, right? One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity one's heart is purified, and one attains this position. And when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. In other words, the verse is saying, human life is meant for austerity. Like we're rising early, we're doing different austerities. Austerities of the mind, austerities of the body, which is in the Bhagavad Gita, right? Austerities of speech, which we'll get into soon. Means discussing that soon. So we should perform these austerities. It means we're undergoing difficult things, materially you could say, for a higher purpose, to make spiritual progress, to make spiritual advancement, which is extremely important, actually. So anyways, Prabhupada speaks on that verse many times, and the following verses in this chapter of 5 are important as well, like famous verses. So, and then after that, describes Rishabhadev's teachings, the activities of Rishabhadev, and then one of Rishabhadev's sons is King Bharat Maharaj, who's well known, of course. King Bharat. And Bharat Maharaj activities, eventually it describes his activities, his description of the character, right? And then it describes how Bharat Maharaj, he left his kingdom, and then he went to the forest, and he became attached to a, say, doe or deer. He became attached, and then in the next birth he became a deer, and then the following birth he became Jad Bharat, and then there's the descriptions between Jad Bharat and Maharaj Rahugana. So this is amazing. The following, this chapter that we're describing now, but the following chapters that are coming up, absolutely amazing. And then there's the forest of enjoyment, where there's this whole description of the material world being like a forest, right? And the living entities stuck in the forest, and there are snakes and all types of things going on. It's a kind of, you could say allegorical, but very instructive. For those of you who read it or heard of it, you know exactly what I'm. It's very instructive, and then we start getting into these descriptions of Jambudweep, right? Residents offer prayers, and that continues for a while. The structure of the universe, right? And then movements of the sun, orbits of the planets, subterranean heavenly planets, and then the hellish planets. This is going towards the end of the Bhagavatam. The hellish planets, which gives very, you could say, graphic descriptions. Yeah, they're graphic. They're very graphic. They're probably the most graphic of, at least as far as I've heard or seen in other scriptures. Very graphic. What a person does exactly, what sinful activities they've been doing their whole life, they get a correspondent hell. And then Maharaj, I believe after Maharaj Pariksha hears all this from Shukadev Goswami specifically, because that's the last of this canto, the hellish planets. He being a great Vaishnava, he feels pain in his heart. Well, how can these living entities be saved? Right? Because you do this sinful activity, that sinful, you go to certain hells. Very graphic. And then, so he's saying, how can they be saved? And then that goes into the 6th canto, which goes into Ajamil. Which Ajamil is the whole pastime of him, there's a Brahmin, and he became attracted to a Shudrani woman, and he leaves his wife, and then he just goes off with this woman, and he completely forgets about Krishna consciousness. But despite him forgetting about Krishna consciousness, he names his son Narayan, which is a name for God. And then at the end of his life, he chants Narayan, referring to his son. And then the Yamadutas come to take the sinful soul to hell. And then the Vishnu Dutas come and they say, hey, stop, you can't take him. He chanted Narayan, he chanted God's name. So it gets into the whole description of the glories of the holy name and how the living entities can be saved. So anyways, there's a bunch of amazing chapters coming up. And the Bhagavatam itself is saying we should relish the message of the Bhagavatam. In the very beginning, it's saying, how does that verse go? Rasika Bhuvibhavika. Anyways, I'm forgetting the beginning of it. Sanskrit. But it's saying, oh, expert and thoughtful men or women, excellent and thoughtful persons, please relish the message of the Bhagavatam, which is emanated from Shukadeva Goswami's lotus mouth, and which has become even more sweet after him speaking it. And so that verse is saying we should become rasikas, we should become relishers of the Bhagavatam, of the ecstasy of the Bhagavatam. So that it's the subject matter of the Bhagavatam is extremely instructive and just amazing. So we should try to enter the message. So coming back to Rishabhadev's appearance, he is the Vishnu. He appeared, and these priests, they're offering prayers to Vishnu, describing his glories, which is a common thing in the Bhagavatam. When Krishna appears or Vishnu appears, devotees offer their prayers. Like Vrahadev, when he appeared, they're offering so many prayers, and when each one of them appears, there's always prayers. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is explaining how we cannot concoct. Now, who does the definition of that word, concoct? Create whimsically, imaginatively. You want to look it up? Concoct? Your phone? Concoct, right? Or you looked it up? Hey, pretty close there. Dictionary man. Make by combining different ingredients. Main one. What is it? Yeah. An elaborate story, especially a fabrication. So like, for example, something happens, right? Like we're in India, right, one time. We were in India a few times. And I was actually one time like attacked almost by a monkey. Got really close. I had a bag of puffed... Now this is not a fabrication, by the way. This is a true story. I had a bag of puffed rice I was having for breakfast. I went up on the roof of Jagannath Puri. We were staying at the Gaudimat ashram temple there. They ran out the rooms. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur spent time there. It's a very beautiful place by the Total Gopinath temple. You could see the Jagannath temple there. The flag, flying in the background. Anyways, I was having breakfast up there, puffed rice with peanuts, and then I walked down the stairs. I was going to our room, and there was a monkey coming towards me. And I was like, and then, monkey comes towards you. It's not very, you're not, oh yeah, hey, how you doing? Shake his hand or something. They want something from you. They want to attack you, they want to bite you, they want your food, something like that. So they want to steal something from you. So anyways, I got my bag of puffed rice and I just threw it because I thought he was after my puffed rice. I just threw the bag of puffed rice. And then the monkey, he didn't take the puffed rice. He kept on coming towards me. I was like, oh no, this isn't good. And I didn't have a stick with me. So then there's this Russian devotee down the hall, and he had this like really big staff, really big stick. And he was also big himself. Like big Russian devotee. Anyways, I said, hey, Prabhu, And then he saw the monkey. There was one near me coming towards me, and there was one about 10 feet from me. So then he saw the monkeys, and then with his staff, he hit the wall and scared the other one that was about 10 feet away, and he ran off, right? And then I said, no, not that one. I said, this one. He's coming closer to me. So then he came with his staff, and he hit the wall, and the monkey took off. Since then, at least in Jagannath-puri, I got myself a stick. And of course, you carry a stick not to hit them, but to scare them. So that's a true story. It's not a fabrication. There's nothing fabricated about it. But now, if I was to tell the story, and the monkey came towards me, and and then he had one leg, and then he jumped on me, and he started punching me, and then I threw him off, and we had a battle, and I was going like this with a stick, and then he bit me. He bit me right in the chest, and see, I'll show you the mark, and I show you the mark on my chest, and there is a mark there, but the mark is from when I was play fighting with my father, when I was 10 years old, and he accidentally scratched me with his nail or something. There's a mark there, but I say it's from the monkey, right? Well, this whole thing that I'm saying after the true story I just told is a whole fabrication, but I don't have a mark there. But actually, I do have a mark, but I actually do have a mark, and it was from when my father were, but joking, So to fabricate things, to make things up, to use our mind, to use our intelligence to make things up. And sometimes you meet people like this, right? I just traveled all over America, and and my mother and my father, while they're growing up, they were actually friends with Tesla. What's his name? Whatever his name. Yeah, Nikola Tesla. They're actually friends. And while growing up, so he's kind of like my uncle. I mean, it's not biological, but he's like my uncle. And then like when he would come over to our birthday party, he wasn't such a nice guy. I mean, and actually there's a lot, I have to have a lot to say about him, and he would do this and he would do that, and Elon Musk. Yes, Elon Musk. Huh? I'm making up a story. I'm saying how you thought I'm telling. I said I'm making the point, when you talk with people at the Krishna Lounge, at the Sunday Feast, or on book distribution, sometimes they fabricate this whole story. I mean, and that it's fabricated. Now someone would say, well, how do you know it's fabricated? Well, I mean, they really go off, into a whole. We had some bhaktas here who would do that, actually. We had a bhakta years ago. He would fabricate this whole. And they're like, all right, man, okay, we kind of heard enough now. Now, of course, some people do that to lesser degrees, right? Some people won't fabricate. Oh yeah, my mother was actually friends with Elon Musk, and he would come over to my birthday parties, and he's not such a nice guy, and he would never buy me presents and stuff like that. And he's actually after me because I know some secrets about him, and if I anyways, strange stuff. So now that's like, you could say extreme, but then there's like there's levels of a line, making things up. So we don't want to make things up about ourselves. When we're with people. Oh yeah, and I did this, and I did. Like someone was telling me the other day that one of their friends, while they were speaking with one of this person I'm talking about, he's a devotee, and he brought his friend over to meet his parents. And this friend of his was saying, because he was in high school and he was going into college, and he said, I took AP courses in high school, and I took calculus, this and that, and pretty much he was just lying to make himself look good. He was lying. So it's the thing in the world to lie, to make oneself look good or look better or look like somebody who's important or more important than they actually are. So that's one, you could say, aspect of concocting. We shouldn't concoct things about ourselves to make ourselves look better. We're just, we are who we are, and we have our qualifications or disqualifications, right? And that's it. We have to be honest, straightforward. And that is in the realm of controlling our speech. We have to control our speech. So, but then we go into the realm of religion, or the realm of philosophy, or the realm of trying to figure things out, absolute truth. And then it's like a whole nother can, or they say can of worms. I'm not sure where that came from, but it's a whole nother field, because people really speculate in that field, and they almost feel that they have a right to speculate, a right to concoct, and they may not lie about themselves and try to make things up about themselves, but it's like, all right, now we're in the realm of religion, now we're in the realm of philosophy, now it's time for me just to speculate and concoct things, and nobody's going to check me, right? Nobody's going to put me in jail for it. Nobody's going to think this guy's an immoral person. Like, if you lie about yourself and somebody finds out, like if I tell you, oh yeah, I actually have a PhD, and but I don't, and you find that out, it's like, man, this guy's a liar. If I tell you, let's say, okay, I'm going to India, right? Let's say I go to India and I say, oh, Balarama Dasa. And by the way, I tell the devotees in Juhu, I'm giving the talk in Juhu, I say, yeah, I'm a PhD. I studied psychology, SDSU. And how are they to know, right? Just trust me, right? Makes me look a little better, right? Maybe. To some people. Anyways. But if I lie about it, and then they find out, that I joined the ashram when I was 18 years old, that means, when did I go to college, right? Like, man, what's up with this guy? This guy's, But sometimes people, of course, devotees speculating and concocting in the realm of religion and philosophy. Those who are actually sincere or serious practitioners, they think, oh, that's ridiculous. You can't do that. But at least within some groups, some spiritual groups, it's like a open field. Go for it. Write books about it, right? Just go to Barnes and Nobles. You'll see hundreds of books, right? Whole sections of speculations and concoctions, actually. So, as Srila Prabhupada said, I've heard that he said this. I haven't read it or seen it, but anyways, it's a good statement, whether he said it or not. But he said, so I've heard that, and maybe some of you can confirm where he said it, so then I could actually say he said it, in London in 1965 or 1972 in a room conversation or something. But he said to say that, as soon as you say "I think," you should end the statement in a closet, which means that it's not that. It's when Srila Prabhupada says that, because we do think certain things, and we may, use our logic to try to understand things, right? But there's a difference between using our logic to understand things and stating things as if they were a fact. Like, we're supposed to use our intelligence to understand Bhagavad Gita, to understand Bhagavatam, right? Use our intelligence to try to understand logically, there's certain statements in scriptures that, Yeah, there's many things we could understand by our logic and try to understand, and also use our intelligence to see that, okay, well, it's stated in this scripture, it's stated in that scripture. How is it true, right? So that's one thing, right? But another thing is to say, I think, and to really have a lot of faith and confidence in what one is saying, even though it is devoid of scriptural basis, or mainly scriptural basis, or sadhus or gurus. So in other words, we should be able to back things up by scripture. And even if maybe at some times we do say I think, we say, hey, well, I'm trying to use my logic here. I'm trying to see how it all connects with Krishna consciousness. Don't quote me on this. we're trying to understand, which is a difference. So say, I think, this and that, like people, they write books, and I think, and their statement is like, all right, this is the path, this is the way. And they may not say that, right? Follow me, then why are they writing books? They're writing books because they have confidence, they have faith in what they are saying. In other words, what they are saying, they feel that what they are saying can help people. Therefore, they write books. Why else would they write books? And if they're just saying, I think, I feel, and they're taking it, from this person, that person, or they're just speculating, concocting all these different things without any real scriptural basis, they should just, they shouldn't have written the book. They should have just wrote it on a pad and kept it to themselves, right? And this is, writing of all these books is actually quite bewildering for people. There's like hundreds of books, thousands of books, and there's all these ideas floating around, and so many of them are just quite illogical. So, so for those of us who are practicing Krishna consciousness, everyone in this room, and those who are listening online or listen in the future, it's important that we understand, that we know what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, according to Scripture. It is very important. And if the first step, you could say, is just to theoretically understand something is bad. Like, for example, the eating of meat, fish, and eggs. Of course, it seems like a very basic point, and in many ways it is. It's extremely basic. It's like, it's not like you become vegetarian or vegan or something and you're self-realized. I mean, there's a lot more to do. This is just like the baby step, right? A baby step of a baby. A human could take a baby step, but this is like a baby step of a baby. So, but interesting enough, it is not understood. It is not understood, even in the Hindu community. What I mean, the ISKCON, in the San Diego Hindu community, the Dallas Hindu, the American Hindu community, India, it is not understood. People are not understanding this, which is, it is sad. It is just, I feel really bad, actually. I feel really bad. India, at this time, sorry to say, I'm sorry to bring it up, but, and what can you do? What can we do about it? Of course, India still has a lot of pious people, a lot of temples, a lot of deities, a lot of religion still going on there. Right? Not booming. Varsha, right? But it is the number 3 exporter of meat in the world. It means they're exporting a lot of meat. Just like in Delhi, I heard that every day, or maybe it's probably every day, there's a lot of people there, maybe every Friday, something like that. They have a big order of meat coming in, beef, meat coming in. I'm very sorry, but and then on Fridays, I think it is, I don't know, when do the Muslims fast from meat? Or maybe it's just once in a year, Ramadan or something. Yeah, you have some background. Yeah. So once a year for a month, something like that, where they, or at least, but I could have swore there was on once a week they weren't eating beef or something. Anyway, something like that. But just they're fasting, okay. Now, that means that less meat comes into the market, and all the people, they know that. They know that, okay, Muslims are fasting, so we need to order less. We're not going to order the same amount, and that's called intelligence. If you order so many pounds of meat, and then Muslims are fasting that day, and then so much of it spoils, then what's the point of ordering in the first place? But interesting enough is that even though the Muslims are fasting, still a huge amount comes into that market. Almost, I don't know, I forgot the exact amount, but a huge amount. In other words, not much is reduced, so I've heard. So it means, what does that mean? It means Hindus are eating meat, or Christians, or whatever they're, there's a lot of Hindus in India. So they're not understanding this. Now, some of them, Hindus, they may understand to a degree, okay, don't eat the cow, right? At least they're understanding that to a degree. But it's just a matter of time where they won't understand that. Because things start small, right? From subtle to gross. In other words, we have subtle desires. And from those subtle desires, they, grow in the mind. And it becomes gross and gross and gross and grosser. So then someone may say, oh, well, how can you say that? It's just, once you start on the path of degradation, it's not very unlikely that it will just continue, right? Oh, you start eating fish. Oh yeah, we're Hindus, but we eat fish and chicken, right? And then we're at our parties with our friends and this and that. Okay, well, let's drink a little alcohol. Let's get intoxicated, right? They get intoxicated, which means they lose some more of their intelligence, practically speaking. And then they're eating meat, they're drinking, right? And then that just snowballs, and okay, let me try some more, right? And then they just enter more and more into tamagun, and under the control of rajagun and tamagun, things get really weird. And then they start doing weird stuff like that, or you could say demoniac stuff. So it's actually amazing that now how much they. It doesn't seem that they understand that much this problem of eating chicken and fish. I mean, killing's killing. You kill a chicken, you kill a fish. Of course, Prabhupada would say that killing of cows is the worst, most abominable. And he would say, okay, you eat lower animals, chicken, if you're so attached. But even then, Prabhupada wouldn't speak very highly. He'd say, oh, big modern civilization, right? Just like a vulture, goes very high. And then, he has wonderful vision, great vision, amazing vision. And what's his vision? From, I don't know how high they go. How high do they go? Anybody know? Vulture? Yeah. Anyways, very high. And what's their vision? Dead body, corpse. So he said, oh, a civilization based on, practically speaking, it's like a very important thing. Like people act like it's so important. We've got to have our meat. We got to have our beef. We have to have our chicken. We have to have our fish. Right? Indians, Hindus. I'm sorry, but they act like it's so important. But it's Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said, right? It's what's the vision? A dead body. It's a corpse, for God's sake. And it is violent. It's violent. And it does not help one advance at all in any regard. So the first thing for anybody is to understand what is right and what is wrong. And then, from there, and if they can't understand, they need to chant more Hare Krishna. It means intelligence is not operating properly. They need to chant more Hare Krishna, and then they will understand more and more and more what is right and what is wrong. And then upon understanding what is right and wrong, we may have struggles to actually follow. Like someone may say, I know, Hindu may say, I know eating chicken, fish is wrong, but I'm just so fallen, I can't control myself, and I'm trying to give it up. Okay, fine. That's a lot better than just, hey, I eat chicken, fish, and nothing wrong with it. That's a really bad state. This is a little better, to struggle to give it up. But eventually, through the practices of Krishna consciousness, we should be able to give it up, or people should be able to give it up. So one is to understand, theoretically, what's good and what's bad. 2 is to try to follow. And 3 is to actually just give it up. So, anyways, look at the clock. It's getting a little late now, so we're going to wrap up things. So this falls into the realm of not concocting. We shouldn't think, oh yeah, to eat meat is good, and we have all types of misconceptions of how it's good. right? Oh, it's just a fish, it's just a chicken, this or whatever it may be. We could take it into the realm of so many different things, intoxication, whatever, so many things. How we try to justify it, but we shouldn't. We just understand some things are good, some things need to be rejected, and some things need to be accepted, and then we try to do that. So, in other words, we shouldn't concoct. We have to follow the scriptures, what's good, what's bad. And then, you could say on a positive note, that Krishna will reveal himself. All of the descriptions are there. Who is Krishna? How we make advancement. And Prabhupada quotes this verse, which is quoted many times in Srila Prabhupada's books, and which is one of the favorite verses of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Atashi Krishna nama di namba vedgam indriya. So Krishna, our blunt senses, materially senses, contaminated senses cannot perceive Krishna or Krishna consciousness, but by engaging the senses, starting with the tongue, by not eating meat, fish, and eggs, by eating prasad, we do that, and then we chant Hare Krishna. Then Krishna reveals himself. Everything about Krishna consciousness is revealed to us gradually. So, yeah, it's a very, very defined process, and we just have to follow. That's it. Try to follow. So, all right. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, I'm actually curious to know about how philosophy is taught here in schools or in universities. Does anyone have any clue? I mean, do they encourage people to speculate, or what is their methodology?
Yeah. They encourage people to speculate, of course, because a lot of the times, modern people, they think we're the top of the top of the chain, and the whole it's an arrogant thing that we're humans and we should be able to understand everything, practically speaking. And let us speculate, let us concoct, let us write books about it. But anyway, you have some comment about that?
In different ways, I would say. Maybe like from every angle, you're kind of encouraged to speculate from, like even in terms of not just like speculate your own philosophy, but even on interpreting other people's philosophies. So like you look at Nietzsche, and you may be encouraged to write a paper about your own interpretation of Nietzsche. And not only that, you'll look at like the acharyas of Nietzsche, and you'll look at Martin Heidegger, and you'll look at like the different the people who are like the most the highest authorities on him. And then you'll speculate how they could have a better interpretation than they did, which is like totally different thing. You look at Martin Heidegger, who's supposed to be like the expert on Friedrich Nietzsche, and then you speculate your own kind of a better philosophy, or you kind of like mix it in a way, and
say how he's wrong, pretty much.
Yeah, it's a whole different. Just like for in college, if you were to repeat another philosopher's philosophy and just try to do it, that'd be like plagiarism.
Yeah.
What we do, we're like trying to always use examples of the acharyas, give like the same explanation of the acharyas, always quote the acharyas. Yeah. Maybe even not even say what source or what text you're referring to, just like say it sometimes. That would be like plagiarism from the or at the very least, not useful or boring, or you don't have anything to offer. But this program, the modern program, the Western modern program, is to always interpret in a new way. And so like even in my, I'm a freshman in college, and so my assignment in several classes, in my art history class, in my in a couple of philosophy classes, is study these different philosophies and these different art, these different like periods of art, and now come up with your own philosophy or your own theory of art. So like that, you're giving that to like a freshman, that you like look at all these, and then like take what you like. Take what you like from because there are different theories of what makes art art. So look at these different theories of these different periods, in history of art history, and then take what you like, discard what you don't, and put together your whole new thing. Give it a name, Brightism or whatever. You give it some kind of name, your own name for the philosophy, and then that's your final paper.
That's
for
amazing.
for the course. Same thing in like my ethics class, things like that.
That's amazing.
So it's always come up with your new thing, and even reinterpret what the actual philosopher's saying. What he really means is this. What he probably could have been meaning is this.
Yeah,
even when it's pretty clear, try to find a
amazing.
new way. It's wildly different.
Yeah, it's very interesting this because we could see how the world is being influenced by Mayavadism, and that the very principle of Mayavadism is that they really don't accept authority, actually, when it comes down to it. Like for example, then personalist idea is that, okay, you have a guru, but the guru is to lead you to a particular goal, and once you have that goal, you don't need the guru anymore. So in other words, they don't really accept authority. And what does that mean practically? That means that everyone is on an equal platform. Now, of course, spiritually, we're all on an equal platform, right? But the whole basis of Gaudiya Vaishnavism and the whole basis of guru and disciple relationship and so on is that we're not on the same platform, we're not on the same platform, and there has to be respect given to the authority, to the acharya, to the teachers. Just like so when they say, okay, well, everybody's opinion, practically speaking, is equal. So you're just like erasing any idea of there being authorities on anything, practically speaking. And this is Mayavad, right? We're all one. So, anyways, it's like with the academic papers, I've seen that they take a book, they read it, and then they say, okay, this is what I like about it, this is what I don't like about it, this is how I think they're wrong. Like, we do that with other, you could say, traditions and works and this and that. Like Srila Prabhupada, they had that whole discussion with philosopher Shamasundar. But what it means to be like a bhakti yoga practitioner, like a disciple, it means that we accept the scriptures as they are, and we don't try to see how they're wrong. We try to see how they're right. Anyways, but yes, you have something.
Yeah. So what I understand, it's like you actually read something and then you have your own thoughts, but you try to present it in a very logical fashion, like connecting the statements, so that you come up with your own thesis, so as to say. That's about it.
Yeah, I guess maybe to be fair, to be more accurate, there are like assignments, and like part of the course is that look at this philosopher, try to give like a very kind of basic perspective on like, what's he saying, like, reiterate what's he saying, put in your own words, but like really what is his message.
Yeah.
But then so that will also be there sometimes, look at this, art period and say what is the objectives, what are their qualities, what are their, and then but then the real goal of all of that really is now where do you go from there, so like, okay, this is what Nietzsche's saying, where do you go from there, how can you make it better, how can you make it make your own
You have someone, Govardhan? Okay. All right, Daniel, then Govardhan, and then we could. Yes. Yes, Daniel, go for it.
So you said about, in the beginning, you kind of said about controlling the speech.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But sometimes when we speak, we're not like speaking like every thought we think of. We're going to think about it before we say it and then say it. Sometimes we just kind of speak and it flows, it's fluid, but we're not exactly like in that thought process. So what do you mean by controlling the thought? Like, that's my general question is, and how does one...
Controlling the thought or controlling the speech?
Controlling the speech, and then how does one cultivate that in himself?
All right.
Him or herself?
I think Dharma Setu Prabhu told me this other day. He said that there's rock bands, so many of the rock bands in American history, they or whatever, world history, they broke up. They got in a fight about something, practically speaking. Usually they break up because of fighting, right? Quarreling, Age of Kali. So, anyways, Dharma Setu Prabhu was saying that he heard that there was one famous group that was interviewed, and one of the musicians, they were asked, well, how do you guys stay together so long? You know, like, how did you? And one of the guys said, well, you know, I didn't say everything that was on my mind all the time. I just kind of like checked. That means that we have something in the mind. Like, for example, I have an urge to snap at you, right? Not right now, but I have an urge to snap at Daniel, right? Now, if I just check that my thought, what I want to say to you, right, and the desire to do that, and I just don't say it. Anyways, so that's what this band member was saying. I just didn't say everything that was on my mind. So that's there. We means controlling speech means that what enters our mind may not have to be said. It may have to be said, and therefore it says a Brahmin, right? He thinks, 3 times before he says something, right? Means very thoughtful about what they say, because, do we actually mean what we say, or did we say it out of rage? Do we say it out of anger? Do we say it to hurt the person? Is it going to benefit the person? Is it valuable? Is it useful? Or is it not? And if it's not, we just, I'm not going to say it. Now, of course, it takes some time to, learn that, because it's good control. But anyway, so that's something. All right. You got your mic intercepted. Go over that. Yes.
You mentioned that Krishna reveals himself to you, and
Yes.
What exactly does it mean?
What does that mean? Okay. Well, it means that the chanting process, specifically the chanting process, is the process by which all of this takes place, practically speaking, but means that we start to, it describes in the Bhagavatam in the first canto, right? There are certain qualities within us that are, you could say, base qualities or low qualities, anger and different greed and things like that. So those start to become cleansed. So, so after those become cleansed, there's a whole process, right, from Shraddha to Prema. So, we take initiation, we engage in the process of chanting, our heart's becoming cleansed, and then we're developing faith, right, or we're developing strong faith at that point, or we're becoming fixed, and we develop attachment, and we start developing love for Krishna. So, in many ways, what it means when we say Krishna reveals himself is that he reveals the sweetness of himself. It means there's a certain sweetness in the Bhagavatam, and that will be revealed if one surrenders. There's a certain sweetness in chanting Hare Krishna, and that will be revealed if one surrenders. Someone could, going back to this, someone could eat meat, right, and chant Hare Krishna, and they may get something out of it, but in order to really make more progress, they have to give that up. It means they have to surrender to the process more, and the sweetness of Krishna's name will be revealed. So his name, his form, his activities, his qualities, they'll all be revealed. Means the sweetness. In many ways, that's what it's referring to, because even when we talk about love for God or love for Krishna, what is that? It means there's a intense attraction. And part of that attraction is that we're experiencing our nature, which is bliss, our true nature, part of our nature. So, yeah.
Thank you, Balaram Prabhu. Wonderful class.
Thank you.
So I have an interesting story about yesterday. We were at Balboa Park, and I met this very enthusiastic 15-year-old preacher. He wants to become a preacher.
Christian.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so he was talking about sin. So I told him, and what you mentioned earlier, we should know what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
And he kept talking about sin. And so I told him, do you believe killing an animal is a sin? Is it wrong? And then he stopped and said no. And I said, do you have any pets? And he said, yeah, I have 2 dogs. And I told him, if I were to kill it and eat it, that's not considered bad. And he actually thought about it, and I said, yeah, I guess it's bad. And the sister was a nurse. She was older. Anyway, long story short, I told him, if you really want to become a preacher, you should get this book, the Bhagavad Gita. It teaches the essence of religion like that. And then so he said, okay, I'll get it.
You
So
got it?
Yeah, he got it.
Good. Prabhupada would say we don't want to make Christians Hindus, but he'd say just don't eat meat. That's all. Simple. Anyways, we're good. All right.
This is the last thing I'll say. But when Ravi was bringing up how philosophy is taught in the West or in the modern world, and then from that you went on saying that an aspect of Mayavad is you don't really accept authorities. Maybe you superficially do or temporarily do, but not like really accept an authority. And I was thinking, I've mentioned this to you before. We've talked about this before, but it must have been Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. He said that the difficult thing with the Hare Krishna movement or ISKCON is that for anybody to join it in the West, anyone who's going to join ISKCON or join the Hare Krishna movement in the West, they have to be the kind of person to not really respect authority. Because if they did respect authority, they would respect their mother, who would tell them don't do it. They'd respect their father, who would tell them don't do it. They'd respect their teachers, say don't do it. They'd respect the leaders of the society, say don't do it. The pop culture, celebrities, say don't do it. So if you're the kind of person to join the Hare Krishna movement, you have to be the kind of person who doesn't really care about authority and doesn't really, put much respect into authorities. And that's tough because the Hare Krishna movement actually depends on you accepting authority. You actually have to. So ISKCON's really tough because it's filled with people who don't accept authority or else they wouldn't have joined. But then in order for ISKCON to work and actually for people to make advancements in Krishna consciousness, you need to accept authority. That's our culture. That's our philosophy.
Yeah. That's funny.
It's all about properly accepting and respecting authority even when you disagree, even so many things, this aspect of respecting and accepting authority. And I was thinking in relation to this verse, that was nice, because this verse was, it touched on that too. The verse was that, these priests are praying to God and they're saying that, like, we're totally separate, or separated, We're in the material world, you're totally transcendental, you're in the spiritual world. We only have, material vision. You can't be seen by material vision. And so, like, we can't see you at all. We have no power to see you at all. All we can do is try to give you our respects. And then they said, and the only way we can do that is by going through, like, those who know you, or the acharyas.
Yeah.
So, like, we're totally separated, us and God. And so our only hope is to offer you respect. So we can't even do that on our own because we don't know how to respect you. We don't know how to worship you. We don't know how to please you. We can only do it by accepting the acharyas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was... And
Yeah.
I thought there was something else about that. Yeah. Yeah, praying, everything. How do I know what actually is pleasing to God? How do I know how do I actually worship and respect you? We may think something, a particular thing is
we can
respectful.
partially understand your supernatural position
Yeah.
by the chanting.
So I thought that was nice. Kind of related those things.
Yeah, with this idea of rejecting authority, then joining, and then you have to accept authority because that's how things, move on, really. Because movement means there's, like, practically speaking, like Prabhupada, he pushed his disciples, and then, like, Prabhupada's disciples are, like, pushing their disciples. It kind of, like, goes on like that, like a train, but pushing. But, one thing to think about that is that, we rejected all these material authorities, and they're not really authorities, actually. But we accept real authorities. Now that is the challenge, because that means that those who are acting as leaders, right, of the Hare Krishna movement, they have to live up to it. You can't, because devotees, they reject material authorities, but now they come into spiritual life and they want real authorities. So therefore devotees have to live up to it. Temple commanders, right, temple presidents, GBCs, sannyasis, gurus, this and that. Or shiksha gurus and so on. They have to live up. So, all right, you had last thing.
Hare Krishna. I just had one question. What happens to the individual soul that knows its knowledge but neglects it? Like, it knows what is wrong and what's right, but still chooses
The wrong.
Yeah, or just acts like it is not there at all.
Well, there's principle of reincarnation, so the soul going to different bodies. So if a soul doesn't become fully God-realized or fully self-realized, then they continue, and they're next. Yeah. But that's why that's why education's so important, because practically, if you educate somebody who has a good heart, they'll say, and has some good intelligence and a good heart. They say, that makes sense. You know, I could understand how this is good, that's bad, and now let me accept the good. So, and then they try for that. So, okay. Grantraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, ki jai, Srila Prabhupada, ki jai. There's a nice little quote. There's a nice quote from the Hari Bhakti Vilasa in tomorrow's purport. Tulasi dalamatrena jalasya chulakain va. So Sri Krishna, who is very affectionate towards his devotees, sells himself to a devotee who offers merely a tulsi leaf and a palm full of water.